Can you all hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome to this open air webinar on open science communities by Luc Brinkman. It's organized by Open Air Dance and Open Science communities. I'm Ellie Dijk. I work at Dance and I'm also the Open Air NOAD for the Netherlands. And I'm here just to introduce this webinar. So this webinar is about the open science community. So what is open science? Open science is a movement that aims to increase open research practices in which academic information is being shared at the earliest possible stage and made available for reuse. So components of open science are open access to data, open access to publications, open notebooks, open software, etc. So how can open science be fostered? Well, we need policies on open science on all kind of levels. We need funder requirements on open science. Technical facilities are needed, like trusted repositories or all kinds of tools, like the DMP tools, DMP tool Argos of Open Air, for example. The promotion of the importance of open science. As you could now see at COVID-19, it's very important to have open science. But also recognizing and valuing researchers when practicing open science. Training, for example, on research data management, legal issues, copyright, licenses, and cooperation, like the Open Air NOAD network, and of course, the topic of today, the open science communities. So in 2019, Luc had a market stand at our Open Day on Open Science. So this was organized by Dance. And a year later, also on the Open Day on Open Science, he had a keynote about open science communities. And last January, he gave a workshop at the Open Air Good Practice Exchange Program we organized for NOADs. And all the participants recommended his presentation for a broader open air community. And he also liked the idea, and well, that's where we are now, a webinar about the open science communities by Luc Brinkman. He is assistant professor at the University Medical Center in Utrecht. And I hope you have a nice webinar. And Luc, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ellen. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you to all the organizers. As Ellen said, I'm really happy to be here because what I'll be talking about is the format of open science communities, what we have started in Utrecht. And my ambition is that this becomes an international network of local hubs of open science communities. And Dance has been really instrumental in an open air in enabling me to reach a wider audience, an international audience. So that's why I'm really happy to be here. Okay, so let me share my slides. I don't know if you can hear the rain in the background. I'm sorry for that, but unfortunately.
No, we don't. Don't worry.
Okay. Oh, that's great. That's, I guess, the proof that that we are in the Netherlands here. So can you see my slides now?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. So the title of my talk is The Change from Within and How Open Science Communities Shape the Transition to Open Science. So what I'll be doing today is in the first 20 minutes, I'll give you an introduction on open science communities, what we did in Utrecht, and how we now want to move forward and make it into an international network, and why. Then we have 20 minutes for live Q&A with, so I brought 6 colleagues of mine, 6 coordinators of different open science communities, 5 from the Netherlands and 1 from Ireland. and we can split the group in I'll show you the format later what we prepared for that. But then you can have you can ask all your questions to me and the other coordinators. And then there is 20 minutes. The last 20 minutes is pretty much open. We're going to have a recap of what interesting things came up during the Q&A, and also there is room for all the other questions that you still have. But before we go there, I would really like to know who you are, because I'm now talking to a screen and I cannot see any one of you. I'm really happy to see that we're with 75 people here today. But I want to get some feel of who is in the audience. So if you can go to this website, menti.com, it's best to do this on your mobile device. And if you then type into the code 56935688, and maybe someone can also put that in the chat, then there are a couple of questions that I would like you to ask. And I'm going to switch to that screen. So that's really nice to see. A lot of different countries. And I think the way this works is that the more people there are from the same country, the larger it gets. So we have a lot of people from Sweden and Slovenia here. Also from outside of Europe, that's also really nice. Okay, great. So it's a really, really diverse group we have here today. So the next question that I would like you to ask is, what kind of position do you have? So are you active as a researcher? Are you active as a support staff, for example, also a librarian? Or are you otherwise involved in open science? And if you type other, please, if you want, please type in the chat then what your position is, please. Okay, so the far majority are from support staff. That's also what I anticipated here. What's important to know, because the format of these open science communities is for researchers by researchers, but also support staff can play a very important role in facilitating and setting up an open science community. But we'll get back to that at the end of this seminar. Last question. I think you joined this seminar, and maybe you also have had a look at the starter kit. So who of you is already sure that they want an open science community at their university? Who of you says, well, okay, I maybe, and who, well, who doesn't? But it would be interesting also to see whether why you joined this webinar if you don't want an open science community. But could be interesting. Okay, already 25 people responded with 26 and counting that they want an open science community at their university. That makes me really happy. Because it's I think it's one of the main challenges now is to make this network even bigger. And then for the 24 people that answered maybe, I hope that I will be able to give you some more information now on why this might be a good idea, and also to give you some practical tips on how to get started. Okay, let me go back to my main slides. You can now see my the who are you slide again, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I presume that because you signed up for this webinar, you agree with me that we need open science to prosper in the 21st century and beyond. We've seen this in particular. I mean, this has been also on the agenda for many years already, but in particular now also with how we're trying to fight the corona pandemic, it becomes really clear that we need science and we need fast access to reliable science to interact with the world. And this will be even more pressing in the future also when we're talking about the effects of climate change and whatsoever. So open science is in that sense crucial to enable us to deal with these challenges. So, but as you all know, open science is not yet the norm in academia. So, and that's what we want to change. But that's a big challenge because basically what we want to do is change a research culture. Now, Brian Nosek, he wrote a really nice blog post on what it takes to change a culture. And basically what he describes is we have all these different actors in this pyramid, and they all need to work together. We need all these layers. So on the very top, you see policy and incentives. Already a lot is happening in that regard. In particular, for example, in the Netherlands, there is now a lot of talk on revising the rewards and incentive structures in academia. And we have also national and also international policy statements on moving towards open science. On the bottom, there's infrastructure. Over the past decade, we have seen a lot of different new infrastructures for open science, the open science framework, but also the EOSC, European Open Science Cloud. Services that enable you to share your results, your articles, your data, and your code with the rest of the world in an easy way. So I think that the main challenge at this point we are now in time is in the middle layer. So at the level of communities, it's about the research, the norms in academia. How do we as researchers want to do our job? And that's a social challenge. And that's a difficult one because that's also that's particularly challenging how to change this, how to change the social norms in this environment. And basically, what we want to do in order to have a meaningful change in culture, you need a lot of people. You need to get the majority of the research community involved. So what we see now in any innovation, what we now see in open science, that this is a curve where the x-axis is time, where you see at the early stage, you have people that are adopting a new way of doing things, in this case, open science. So those are the innovators. And they do so regardless of the norms, the existing norms. They are breaking with the current norms. And that's nice, but if we want a movement to be sustainable, then we need more. We need to also include early adopters, early majority, and late majority in the process. We need to take them on board. I think the main challenge now with open science, how to reach the masses, so to say. And the solution that we thought of for that is open science communities. So an open science community is a social structure. It's a platform to engage people in open science. So to invite people that are new to open science, they're interested in open science, but they don't have any practical experience with open science per se to begin with, to welcome them to the learning community, which is an open science community, where they can learn from their peers who already have experience in certain open science practices. That's the core of the open science community. At the same time, the open science community can also interact with the top layers and the bottom layers in the pyramid that I showed in the 2 slides back. So interact with policymakers and designers of research infrastructure to refine these policies and these tools to make them more effective. And also important, open science is not only about opening up science for within academia, but also opening up science for the rest of society. So an open science community is also a place where researchers can learn how to interact with stakeholders outside of academia. So with governments, with patients, and also with companies, and also with citizens. So we can, if we go to one step further, we can say we have 3 aims with open science community. The first one is to reach and engage researchers to learn about open science. To have a big audience amongst researchers, to reach the research community by and large. The second is that if we reach those people, we want to inspire them and enable them to adopt open science practices. And third, we want to interact with policymakers and designers of research infrastructure, so we can basically shape the environment that researchers are operating in to make it more worthwhile and more easy for them to adopt these open science practices. So if we're going to break that down, what do we actually want and what do we actually do within the open science community? Regarding the first aim, we want to reach people because what we want to reach beyond the open science bubble. And what I mean with that is that me and my colleagues, we have been interested and active in open science for many years. But when we go to conferences, for example, on open science, we always meet the same people or the same kind of people, the people that are already on board of open science. So the initiative of open science communities is really an effort to reach beyond this bubble and also include other people who are new to open science. And we want to focus on the willing. I'm not going to argue with people that say open science is not for me. I'm not going to try to convince them if they really don't want to. I'm going to focus on the people that are interested and are eager to learn about open science. And very important, there's no prior expectation needed or commitments to that you will from now on always adhere to all open science practices. No, that's all not required to join the open science community. So how do we do that? We try to be as visible as possible in social media and newsletters of different faculties, of different universities, flyers, guest lectures, and we also have blogs, blog posts, and very important, we organize events where people can learn more about open science. Then stickers and welcome gifts. It may sound a bit trivial or a bit like a trick, but actually there's more to it, because by handing out, for example, water bottles like this, it's not only nice for them to get a gift, but it's also creating a identity. It means something to belong to be a member of this community. It's being part of the change. And at the same time, all this merchandise is also a way of becoming more visible, because a water bottle or a sticker on your laptop can be a nice conversation starter. One of the things that we have learned is that the tone of voice is really crucial. So if you want to appeal to researchers who are not already committed to open science, you need to be very sure that you will don't sound condescending, or so you need to be really inclusive. So second aim is to inspire and enable people to actually adopt these practices. And there we focus on knowledge exchange amongst peers. And those peers don't have to be full experts on the topic. It can also be that they have just started, they just made their first data set openly available. That's very interesting information, because then the gap between the person so it's more easy to think, okay, this is actually something that I can also do. We try to make it as practical as possible. And at the same time, we also want to show that this is not something really outside of the scope of the university. So we want to always relate it also to institutional policies on open science, for example. So how do we do this? With open science symposia, where we showcase the use cases of researchers who are already putting open science to practice. And we also have a website where people can indicate what do you want to learn regarding a certain open science practice, and what experience do you already have that you can share. And then we can try to do a matchmaking between the two, to enable people that people can find the person where they can learn about this particular practice. And we organize workshops, and on the website, I'll show you an example of the website later on, some news articles on recent developments regarding open science, and podcasts, for example. And one of the future directions where we also want to go is to expand this also with the mentorship program, where you can learn in a cohort from peers to put a certain open science practice to practice. The third aim, to empower and support. So first of all, we want to create awareness amongst researchers. What are the ongoing policies and infrastructure that is already there, to make them aware of them, and also to make sure that their voice is heard in that sense. So what are the obstacles and opportunities that researchers, but in particular researchers that are new to open science, see regarding particular open science practices, and we want to bring that to the table at discussion, policies about discussion and policies of designing infrastructure. So in that sense, it resembles a bit a union for open scientists. So how do we do that? We do that by having a close collaboration by our universities and the university programs on open science. But very important, we remain independent. We're not part of a policy. We're really formulating our own goals. These goals are often very much in line with institutional programs, but that's not a given. So it's very important that it's a community for researchers and by researchers, and they're independent from institutional policies. And for example, what we have in Utrecht now, at my university, that we have the ambassadors of the community. They're also part of the more formal hierarchy of the university, as they are also part of the faculty open science team, which are advisory boards on open science at the level of the faculties. And one of the directions that we really want to go with this network of open science communities, also that we can have interact with stakeholders at the national level and also at the international level to make ourselves heard also at those levels. So this started in Utrecht. Anita Eerland, a colleague of mine, and I, we started OSCU in 2018. And first we did that on a voluntary basis, and we just made a website with five people who had a profile page there. And that rapidly expanded, and now we have over 380 members of all faculties and all career stages within our community. And also we expanded our core team with faculty ambassadors who are our ears and eyes within the 7 faculties of Utrecht University. So we started this on our own, but Utrecht University recognized that this was actually very important also for their open science program. So now we are supported by the open science program. So we now have budgets for, we're working with 10 people in part-time on OSCU, and we have a yearly budget of about 170,000 euros. So this is what our website looks like. You see news articles and blogs on the left, and there's a list of upcoming events. The one on top was just yesterday. And what's a very important part of this website is our member base. And on the right, you see that members are shown there with a profile with a photo, and you can see there that it ranges from master students to full professors. And the blocks in yellow, that's the expertise that certain people have that say, okay, you can contact open access. And what you also see is that there are many people that don't have any open science expertise for which they can be contacted. And that's actually, I think, one of the key features of the community. So those are people that are just here to learn and don't have anything to share yet. So we started it in 2018 in Utrecht, and we also helped colleagues at other universities to set up their own open science communities. And so now we have open science communities in almost all Dutch universities, and also in Ireland and in Sweden. So my goal for the coming year, and also for this session today, is to expand this network to have open science communities, not only in Europe, but all across the globe. So for this, we also made a starter kit, which describes a couple of steps in which you can start your own open science communities. The website is startyourosc.com, and it describes these 4 stages: prepare and launch, grow and inspire, foster and maintain, and dream and scheme. And the last one is particularly interesting, I think, because it's an ongoing process, and we're still shaping this international network. So now is also a nice moment to enter this network, because so there's also a lot of opportunities for you to shape the future, how this network is going to be organized in the future. So, important question before starting an open science community: what is a good community? How would you want your open science community to function? One of the things, it should be easy to join the open science community. So no requirements, so no commitments. It should be really easy, just one click, and you should be able to join the open science community. Within the open science communities, it should be easy to participate. So what we, for example, do is that we have the opportunity, we give people the opportunity to organize themselves within the community to start member initiatives around a certain open science topic. And it should be easy to join a workshop, or also organize a workshop if you want to organize a workshop. Really important, we want to have a diversity in the members that we have. We don't want only members from one particular faculty or focus on early career researchers. We want basically a representation of all researchers within the university. And it should be worth your time to be a member of the open science community. So you should be able that the workshops and the time that you invest in the community also pays off in terms of skills, or also in terms of building a network. And it should be fun. It should also be engaging and interesting and fun to meet new people, to interact with them, to maybe set up new collaborations. So that's also a really important aspect. So if you want to start an open science community, here are a couple of things that you need to think about. First one is team up. It's way more easy to do this when you're not on your own. So it's very, very good. And also when, for example, when you are from a library, a university library, or other support staff, it's important that they're also to connect with researchers, so you can do this together. In that sense, it's really a for researchers by researchers community. And it's much more easy and fun to do this together. So then you want to think about events that you want to organize. And as I mentioned earlier, it's really important that you showcase examples from researchers, how they put open science to practice, so to stimulate peer-to-peer knowledge exchange. And also, maybe a more overarching thing, it's really important to think about a good communication strategy, both in terms of what do you want to communicate, for example, that it is for researchers by researchers, and stress the fact that it's a learning environment. It's not an expert club of people that already are really very proficient with open science, but it's really a place where you can learn. It's okay if you don't know anything about open science when you join your open science community. And the other aspect is, how are you going to communicate? So, for example, through social media or university newsletters, flyers around campus, these kind of things. An open science community is independent, but it is important to also connect with institutional initiatives. So make sure that you know that you are aware of what is the open science policy, what is already happening is particular from the university libraries. Most of them have been working on open science for ages already, and there's a body of knowledge there, and it's really instrumental to collaborate them, also to use that knowledge and to make that knowledge even more accessible to researchers. Then, no funding is not sustainable. What I mean with that is that most open science communities have started on a voluntary basis by a couple of people who just want to, who just started with it. But if you want to have a community in a sustainable way, it is a lot of work, and so you need some support from your institution to keep this going. And the last part is just do it. Most people didn't know exactly where they were going when they started the open science community. And that's actually also part of the charming aspects of the open science communities. We're really flexible and agile, and we can change our ways depending on the recent, the latest developments in open science. And so you don't know what is going to happen in a year from now, but that should not prevent you from starting. So then my main question is, are you in? And so with that, I wanted to move to the second part. And actually what I would like to do is that, so I see that I've talked a little bit too long. So let's say we do this for 15 minutes. What I want to do is to divide the group in three. The first group is people who are saying, okay, yes, I'm already sure I want to start an open science community, preferably today. You can go to this link, bit.ly bit.ly/OSC-yes. And there's you'll go to a Google Doc with a couple of questions, and you can answer those questions. Also type in your own questions. And we have Antonius Schettino from Open Science Community Rotterdam and Anita Eerland from Open Science Community Utrecht, who will be answering your questions there. If you think, it sounds nice, but I'm not sure yet. It still says room 1 and room 2 on the screen, but because we are in this seminar mode, we don't have the actual breakout rooms, so you can just stay here, but you can open these Google Docs. The second Google Doc is OSC-maybe, and there Marcus, Emmy, and Hardy will answer your questions there. And if you say, after listening to me, say, well, actually, now that I think of, I don't want an open science community in this format, please join me and Vera in the Google Doc OSC-no, because I'm really interested in hearing from you why this is not for you. It's the kind of feedback that is very hard to get from us. Why do you think this is not a good idea for you? Which is actually very useful for us. So please join us there. And indicate and have a discussion via this Google Doc with us.
We also have 2 questions. Do you want maybe take them now or later?
Yeah, no, it's fine. We can do it in parallel. So we can, you can open the Google Doc that you are interested in and ask the questions there. And at the same time, I can also answer the questions that are already here.
Thanks a lot. So there is one in a Q&A from Sarah Carter. Hi, thank you for this talk. I wanted to ask how we can spread open science communities worldwide when the first part of the pyramid regulations is not there yet in every country. Thank you.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and my answer to that is it doesn't matter at this moment in time. It doesn't matter. Regardless of any policies, researchers can get together and learn about open science practices and learn how they do things. I think that's at the core of the open science community. If there's already open science policy in place, make sure that the community is connected with that and that there's interaction between the community and these policies. If there's no policy yet, maybe a big open science community can actually be a reason for a university or a country even to put this higher on the agenda. But even with policy vision on open science, regardless of that, the science community can exist, and where researchers can get together and learn from each other how they put open science to practice. Does that answer your question, Sarah?
Thank you. Yes, there is answer yes. And there is one more in the Q&A, and it's a bit more specific. So let me read it. Do you also use some specific software facilitating communications, for example, Google Groups or Microsoft Teams in your open science community?
Yeah, that's also something that we are developing. So one is the website. So some communities, they use a website that was created in R on GitHub, and it's possible to also to clone these websites and adjust them to your own needs. That's one possibility. In Utrecht, we have just created a new website using WordPress, and one of the things that is on my to-do list, and I hope to realize that this year, is to have a dedicated server for open science community websites, where basically with one click, or that you can request and put in a request, and then you get an empty website for your new open science community. So to make that really easy. And another thing that we are now just starting is we use the program Slack to communicate with the coordinators of all the communities that has already been there for over a year. And we are now also setting up a separate Slack channel where the members of all open science communities can interact and ask questions to each other regarding certain open science practices. So now at the moment we are using Slack, but we're also looking into alternatives to Slack, maybe to switch to a more open source solution for that in the future. But for now we've chosen Slack because it was already what people are used to, and many people are already using Slack, and that's then the threshold of joining is lower. And then regarding, for example, Zoom or Microsoft Teams, that's basically up to every open science community. They operate also on their own in that regard. So they all have their different programs that they use for their meetings, for example. And almost all events that are organized by any of the open science communities are open for everyone. But at the same time, you see that these communities are also really local hubs. So these events are often attended mostly by the people from their own open science community, but there are always also people from outside the community.
Thank you. And I can see questions going on in yes and maybe documents, and looks like there is no one in no document. That's already a good sign. It shows commitment.
Is that yeah, okay? That's good to know, because then maybe Vera and I can also. Maybe I will just stay here if there are the general questions, then you can also put them, ask them to me directly, and then Vera, you can maybe join Antonio and Anita for the people that want to start an open science community today.
Yeah, and also if someone wants to speak, you can raise your hand, and I'll unmute your mic, and you can ask your question.
If there are no questions, then I'm also going to join, have a look at the Google Docs, and then we can continue at in 10 minutes before 3.
Okay, then I'll pause recording for now.
Interesting things in the documents. So does Antonio, Anita, or Vera or anyone else within who was in the document want to say what were the questions or topics that were interesting that came up?
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I didn't hear your earlier calls, but I was working, so apparently I'm not a very good multitasker. But I am in the yes, I want to start my OSC today doc, and I'm now answering some of the questions with regard to the obstacles that people are expecting. And one of the obstacles that was mentioned was the lack of interest from scientists. So scientists indicating that they have no time, no money, or no incentives to do open science. So yeah, the first thing that came to my mind is that this is exactly where an open science community could help, in a sense that you can make it more, more visible, in a sense that one of the things that we did at the OSCG in Groningen, in the Netherlands, was to do an interview. So as soon as we met with people who had a very fond opinion of why they didn't have time to do open science, or no money and that kind of issues, we tried to organize an interview where we both interviewed those who had very felt these obstacles to engage in open science, but also try to counterweight that with someone who did not experience these obstacles, and that we published as a blog on our open science community website. And I think that's a great way through the open science community that you can gain some more attention, but also to counteract the obstacles sometimes that are experienced. Although not still acknowledging that they are there. It's just, I think it's worthwhile to discuss these concerns, and also discuss both sides. So that's one example, Luke, of what has been discussed in the document.
Thanks, Vera. So maybe Marcus, Hardy, or Emmy, anything that you want to bring to the table for the document that you were supervising?
Yeah, maybe just a quick comment, Luke, on the term open science, because there was a comment about, we actually don't want to exclude anyone. So for anyone working in, say, UK, Ireland or so, the term open science is often deemed as, it only applies to the sciences, the STEMs, etc. You can use open scholarship. So we in Galway use open scholarship community. So we are an OSC, but we just replace science with scholarship, just to make clear to our audience that we include everyone.
Thanks for that, Hardy. I wanted to mention that, but I forgot. So thanks for sharing that. One of the things that I also saw in the documents is people indicating on what do they need to start an open science community, funding, or to convince the ministry. I think those are really important issues, but it's not necessary. It's not a prerequisite to start. So when we started in Utrecht, we didn't have that yet. And the funding came later, and it's much more easy to apply for funding when you show that you're already doing it, and that you say, okay, with funding we can do this even better, than starting from scratch and saying, okay, we want to do it, but you don't have any proof to show what you can do. So in essence, when we first had a conversation with Frank Miedema, who is the chair of the Open Science program at Utrecht University, he was surprised, and he said, "Who are you? You're doing my job. You're making open science the norm at Utrecht University. That's what I'm supposed to do." And that's so he was really happy with that. And now the program is also supporting us. So that was the way in which we got funded. And at that moment, we were the only open science community in the Netherlands that was receiving funding. And now you see that also more and more communities are actually allocating budget for open science communities. So I think in that sense, there's also you can also point to the open science communities that are already out there in how successful they are, if you want to apply for funding at your own institute. So let me share my slides again to wrap up. Any additional questions, please just put them in the chat, or you put them in the Q&A. What came up, we just discussed this. So take-home messages. I think we all agree that we need open science, and I've hoped to show you that the main challenge that we have now is a social challenge, how to reach and engage the research community by and large. And this is also my idea about how this transition should take shape. Because I don't believe in a transition that starts from top down. I think that researchers are very much able to reflect on how they do their work and also how it can be improved. And then the changes at the policy level, they are complementary, they are important, they need to be there, but they should not be leading. I think that the research community by itself is very much able to shape the transition. So with that, I really hope that that many of you will start open science communities. If you want to start an open science community, and if you, for example, want to be invited to the Slack channel of all the coordinators of the different open science communities, you can just send me an email and I will add you to the list. I want to conclude by showing you a promotional video of the open science communities. The link to the video is in the bottom corner. If you want to reach out to colleagues and also in particular also to researchers to ask them to make them enthusiastic about helping, teaming up and starting an open science community, this video might be useful for that.
You're not sharing your screen, sorry.
Facing today show how. Sorry?
You're not sharing your screen, Luke.
I'm not.
Yeah, you're playing it on your laptop.
Sorry for that. I thought I was sharing my screen. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. So these were the take-home messages, and I will now go forward to the video. The global challenges that we're facing today show how strongly we depend on science. Therefore, it's crucial that scientific articles and data are immediately accessible to all. Currently, this is not how science is organized. This needs to change.
So it is great and exciting and invigorating to see the energy coming from communities like the open science communities in the Netherlands to promote open science practices more broadly. They are the real engines of the culture change movement.
In an open science community, you learn from colleagues who already took steps to make their research more open. We are all here to learn, meet, and cooperate. Community members are encouraged to engage with people outside academia, teaming up with citizens, patients, industries, or governments to increase the societal impact of their work. Communities cooperate with institutions, policymakers, and providers of research infrastructure to create an atmosphere where open science can flourish. In 2018, Luke and I started the Open Science Community Utrecht at our university. Colleagues from all disciplines and career stages quickly joined us, and we helped colleagues at other Dutch universities to set up their own communities and connect with us.
At University Utrecht, we see the benefits of the open science community. They make open science, the program that I'm chairing in Utrecht, and make it very visible. And they help us engage people. They help also to shape the program. We are delighted to have them. And I think for every university in every town, it would be an advantage to have an open science community like that.
The format of open science communities is not only spreading within the Netherlands, but also across the border with local communities in Sweden and Ireland. Together, we form an international network of open science and open scholarship communities. Our network now consists of 13 local communities with over 700 researchers ready to put open science to practice.
And we don't want to stop here. We want to see open science communities all over the globe.
We need researchers like you to start a local open science community. We have an onboarding program to help you out. Go to our website, check out our starter kit, and build your own local open science community in just 4 steps.
These 4 steps: prepare and launch, grow and inspire, foster and maintain, dream and scheme are all described in detail in our starter kit.
Start your own local OSC and connect with us.
Okay, so where's the catch? Do you have to pay for our starter kit? No. All training and materials are available for free on the internet, so that everyone can benefit. So check out our Open Science Community Starter Kit and join our network. The future is open, and we invite you to be part of it.
There is a request to put a link to the video in a chat, if possible.
Yes.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, I can only repeat what's written in the chat. It was perfect. I don't see any other questions or comments. And thanks a million, Luke and Ellie and Amy and Vera and Anita and Marcus and other facilitators.
Thank you very much for organizing this. It's really a pleasure. And I really hope that many of you will contact us and that we can make this network international, make this international network grow, stronger, and together make the transition to open science a reality.
So shall we say 20 more open science communities before June?
Yes, Irina, thank you for organizing it.